Hey, brother, we're live, and you're back. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good. I'm back in the fact that I appreciate the Lando show, and it's corner kind of holding down with you yesterday on a Sunday afternoon, talk about the really post ULM getting into kind of Bama week, and really had some really good questions for them. So if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. I'm actually leave Orlando, Florida tomorrow morning. Get on a flight 10 o'clock. Be back in San Antonio by 12. I can tell you, I am tired of Eastern time football games. I need to be back on Central time, starting these games at 8 o'clock and then going for 4 hours like college football does. You're talking about watching LSU and Florida State almost till midnight last night. But, man, your thoughts, man?
And just so y'all know, Clint's streaming from his phone. He's using his hotspot on his phone to kind of be with us tonight. So bear with us. I know on occasion he'll lock up probably for a second, but his voice is still there. We can hear him. That's kind of the reason why I never went East Coast in the military. You can't always pick your destinations, but the wife being from Michigan, they happen to be East Coast. And when I used to visit her, right after we got married and our first couple trips up there, those games end awfully late. So I definitely understand exactly why you want to get back home in the Central Time Zone when it comes to watching football games, because you like them to end early. Especially when you do what we do, like host a post-game show for Texas with a 7 o'clock start here. It's an 8 o'clock start there, and you don't get kicked in till midnight. But just ready to, like you said, me, Nino, and Lando put a bow on ULM yesterday. Kind of look forward to Alabama this week, and of course, Steve Sarkisian, Coach Saban, player availability. You heard from Bryce Young, Quinn Ewers, Bijan Robinson. You heard from DeMarvin Overshone and Will Anderson today. So we'll kind of go through their comments in a lead up to this weekend's football game on Saturday against the University of Alabama.
Yeah, so really going through Steve Sarkisian's, his presser today. His big thing was trying to make the team understand that the things outside of the locker room, what's happening outside with the media, because everybody's going to cover it this week. We're probably going to do 3 or 4 of those this week. Every other person on YouTube is probably going to do 3 or 4 those this week. But it comes down to the Fox guys, the game day guys, ESPN being there doing interviews on every player that they could possibly do an interview for that game day. It is going to put time out of the necessary they need to be practicing. So his focus is really on, hey, you know what, it's gonna be 11-on-11 come Saturday. We're gonna put our best players out there. They're gonna put their best players out there at 11 o'clock, and the game's gonna happen. And what outside the locker room, outside of the 40 acres, what happens outside of DKR doesn't affect what this team should come out and do on Saturday.
Yeah, and you talked about 11 versus 11, and that's the key. Is like I say, my motto for this season. Of course, all gas, no brakes. Last year, I've got a couple, and the first one's put the ball down. Right, so you can't. The teams that won national championships for the University of Alabama are not going to be on the football field on Saturday. Kind of took myself off social media today because the fan base that we have at the University of Texas, some of the more outspoken ones would have you thinking that this team is going to lose 58-0 on Saturday. I kind of talked to you right before the show what I need to see out of my football team, and again, we'll see as the week goes on and as we do more shows. Of course, you'll get a prediction out of us sometime before the game starts on Saturday. But their best brand of football, Steve Sarkisian kind of talked about it today, is we need to go out there and focus on Texas. Texas needs to worry about their game plan and only their game plan. Teams that face Alabama have the history of letting that affect them before the game even starts. And so when they put the ball down at the 35-yard line, whoever kicks it, whether it's us, we get the coin toss and defer and kick it to them, and our defense hits the field first. It's 11-on-11, man-on-man. All I want our guys to do is when they come out of the game on Saturday afternoon is to say, hey, I gave my best effort. I was fundamentally sound in my assignments. I was disciplined, and that's the kind of football we need to play on Saturday. Now, if it's going to manifest in a win, I don't know. Nobody knows. Again, there's a lot of folks saying it's going to be tight. There's a lot of folks saying that it's not going to be tight. But the ball get placed at the 35-yard line at 11 o'clock on Saturday, and I personally, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. One of the other, Steve Sarkisian, actually had that comment about, specifically not worrying about the outside noise. He also came and said, this doesn't affect what we want to do for the remainder of the season, and that is wind up in the Big 12 championship on December 3rd in Dallas. And that is a true statement. But like you said, if you go read Dusty Sports, if you go read, hell, Twitter was on fire today talking about we're going to get blown out by 55 points or 45 points or 4 points. I've definitely never had a loser mentality. I know we're competitors by heart. So to sit there and lay down, obviously there's some reality behind it, right? And I've got a whole bunch of notes prepared for either Wednesday or Thursday show, whenever we decide our pregame show, that Alabama's a really good team. They're a very experienced team, but the reality is they're also not perfect. You know what I'm saying? At any particular point, that ball is not round, but oblong can bounce either way and turn that game around. Is it going to be tough? Absolutely. You're playing the number one team in the country, probably one of Nick Saban's best teams that he's had. But we got to go out there and play hard. Jeremy said you got to go out there and play hard. You got to be aggressive. But you also have to make sure that you're mentally prepared for everything that's going to come your way, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
All right, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Hey, you want to go ahead and get into the comments, and I should read some of these because you're cutting in and out and a little bit ahead of the stream. So I'll kind of be the point guard here, and I'll let you shoot. So the first one is, and you kind of talked about it. It has no impact as far as conference, right? So the who's who of visitors is going to be there on Saturday. The long list of 23 current 23 commits, a lot of 24 kids in the class, and a lot of kids that Alabama's still on. I think of Malik Muhammad. Alabama's still recruiting him. But like you said, it really doesn't make or break the season as far as your competition in the Big 12 or your ability to play for a Big 12 championship game. That being said, what do you think the final score? I won't say final score, but what do you think has to happen on Saturday in order for us to walk out of there saying, hey, we made a good account for ourselves? These guys can definitely see this program is going in the right direction. Your thoughts? He kind of addressed it today, but your thoughts about that?
Yeah, again, I don't know if there's a point. I don't know if there's a point that point total or a differential of points that really matters. Do you see progression from last year as a 5-7 team going against who's probably going to wind up in the national championship this year? What is the progression of the team? You know what I'm saying? Do we, from the defense side of the ball, do we look like we're running with a unit? Now, obviously, you don't want to put yourself in a situation like, Georgia and Oregon. Probably wouldn't look very good. You know what I'm saying? So to me, the ceiling is you beat Alabama. That's the ceiling, right? The reality is it's going to be a hard-fought game, and I see it somewhere probably between 10 and 21 points at this particular point, right, depending on how the ball rolls, right, in favor of Alabama. What you don't need is a disaster with all these five-star guys that you're recruiting and you're bringing in as an opportunity to come watch them. Some of them being recruited by Alabama, because that could go both ways. But I think if you hit it at the center, if you're somewhere between beating Alabama and losing to Alabama, somewhere below the what would be the cover, I think, which is 19.5. I think you're going to put yourself in a really good place because you're showing progression. But it's what happens after Alabama really is what really matters. Or last year we went to Arkansas, came out of Arkansas, beat the hell out of who we play, Rice. And then you beat the hell out of Texas Tech, Rice, and then Texas Tech, and then you went. And then went to Oklahoma, and then you lost to Oklahoma, and then you lost 6 straight. How do you come out of Alabama?
Yeah,
again,
I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm sorry, but if I look at these guys, man, the players, and say, okay, we're playing Alabama week 2. What roster is more talented than Alabama that you're going to play the rest of the year? You know what I'm saying? So that should show you exactly where you're at as a team. So
love that, and I'm glad you turned off whatever you turned off when I mentioned that because you got much better.
I
as
didn't
far
turn
as
anything
your,
off.
well, that's fantastic. Somebody did something in there to make you sound a lot better. But yeah, so again, you're talking about the number one team in the country coming in. I was thinking about the polls right before we came on. I didn't discuss this with you. We're not ranked in the AP poll, but in the coaches poll, we're 18, right? They're number one there. And I got a conspiracy theory that Nick Saban was the coach that voted Texas number one to have bulletin board material for this particular game. Now, I'm saying that tongue in cheek. But you're absolutely right. You got to go in there and worry about Texas, right? And so, and I threw this comment up there: protect yours and play great defense, and we have a chance. That's what you got to do. You got to talk. You talked about it, right? Hats to the ball. And Nick Saban said this today. He said, "You look at that Texas defense that played University of Louisiana Monroe on Saturday, and they look completely different than the one that played football and gave up a whole bunch of points last year." Again, that's. I think the second year in Pete Kwiatkowski's scheme, it's moving players around, and this may be helped with Gary Patterson is finding out what these guys do really, really well and put them in position to make plays. Again, it was against ULM. You got to take that into account. But again, if you're just going to say worry about Texas against Alabama, you got to say just worry about Texas against ULM, worry about Texas against all your conference opponents. And so, like I said, it's simplistic for me, and you said it as a competitor. I'm not going to allow myself to get beat before I even take the field. And again, I'm going to line up. If I'm Hayden Connor, I'm going to line up against a three technique on Saturday, who I'm going to know a little bit about and try to win that matchup. If I'm Kelvin Banks, I'm going to know everything I need to know about Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, and I'm going to try to win that individual snap. Quinn Ewers, I'm going to have to understand that Alabama is a very good defense led by Pete Golding. And I'm going to study the film, and I'm going to know what their pre-snap stuff is, and try to find my receivers. And that was something that Sark said today, and I'll let you go. Talking about Quinn's patience, right? And we talked about this: driving the bus. Just get what the play gives you, because there's going to be somebody win their matchup. And on Saturday, it was Jatavian Sanders, right? So he looked at Worthy. Worthy wasn't, and you mentioned that. He said, I think Jatavian Sanders was his third look on several of those plays, and Gunnar Helm was his fourth look on a first down conversion. Take what the play gives you, and that's ULM, that's Kansas State, that's Texas Tech, that's Alabama. Just run your offense, be as efficient as you possibly can, stay ahead of the chains, and let the game fall where the game falls.
Yeah, so his comment was like, very rarely did I feel like the ball did not go to the right spot. Talking about yours. Right. Adds that the vertical passing game has to come to life. I'm also seeing this in the Alabama game. Believe it or not, as good as he is, Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young, if you go watch that Utah State game, and we'll get into it when we talk about the in our pregame, he has 6 brand new wide receivers that are playing with him this year. And if you go back and look at their timing, on really in the first half, I didn't get too much into the second half, but if you go look at the first half of that football game, you could tell the timing was off, between quarterback and receiver. And the speed in which you're playing in practice is definitely a different speed than what you're going to be playing in game time. Guys can put hands on you. You're going to be rushed. You're going to be pushed out of the pocket for whatever reason. And he's a hell of a quarterback. Had 11 incompletions, and a lot of those incompletions were timing patterns where he missed his guys. So I think as talking about this vertical pass game, because I know everybody was concerned about it after the game, because we want to see that big splash play as well. But the more that they play in this offense on game day, the better they are going to be at the vertical pass game, because the timing gets that much better. Obviously, it's never going to be perfect, because you got other guys that are trying to punch you in the mouth from the other side of the ball. So it's not going to be perfect. But to understand what your receiver is going to do once they've taken off down the field, I think Nick Saban said it to his press conference. Quinn Ewers, talking about Quinn Ewers today, he's a really, really good quarterback. He said he tossed the ball 55 yards off platform down the field on a vertical throw that he barely missed. He said 55 yards off platform, running out of the pocket, like what was on one foot, chunked to 55 yards. So you can tell what Nick Saban thinks about Quinn Ewers. But I think, like you said, get it to who you need to get it to. If that's Xavier Worthy on that play, or if it's Jordan Whittington, or if it's Jatavian Sanders, or if it's Gunnar Helm, or Bijan Robinson out of the backfield. Get it to the guys. There's nothing wrong with checking it down and getting a couple of yards versus taking a sack or throwing an interception.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. I kind of want to turn it back to macro again too, if I could. But I agree with everything you said. Again, it's going to come down to 60 minutes of ball, and we'll deep dive into their defense against our offense against their defense later on this week. But you could spin it pregame however you want, right? So I was reading an article today. The ESPN FPI has Texas as the 7th best team in the country, right? Alabama's number 1. Overrated? I think so, for where we're at right now as a program. If you look at a blue chip ratio, Texas has the 6th most talented roster, supposedly, for the blue chip ratio to play against the number 1 Alabama squad. So the differential in talent, and Lando said this yesterday, I don't know that it's 100% off, and I'd have to go back and look at offer sheets for every Texas player that's on the current roster to see if Alabama offered them. But there are quite a few players on Texas roster that I'm sure Alabama offered and would love to have for them on their football team. I think if this game is played 2 years down the road and this little older roster, I think we have a much better chance. If this freshman class, this 2022 class that's currently playing, that's going to get a lot of snaps on Saturday as juniors and seniors, I think we have a lot better chance to win this football game. Not saying that we can't win this football game on Saturday. I think our chances grow. But I think we're in a better position, especially at home, to give them a much better fight than most people think. And I think 19 points is perfect. I said this on the post game, I think, or I may have said it yesterday in yesterday's show. If Alabama, and at the time I thought it was going to be 2 touchdowns or 17 points, I thought that's where the line would drop. I think it dropped at 19. And I think I think that's where it needs to be. I think they're spot on when they have Alabama a 2 touchdown to 3 score favorite against Texas. But Texas, like you said, it's an arm-long football. Texas has the potential to make a lot of explosive plays, both on offense and defense. I think that's if we can play a sound football game, we get a couple of explosives from the guys who made explosives in big games. Xavier Worthy, multiple explosive plays last year against Oklahoma. If he could do that on Saturday, it kind of evens the playing field. If Bijan can get a couple of explosive runs, levels the playing field. If we can, again, you're not going to play a perfect game. You're going to have some penalties, but if you can limit penalties and turnovers, that levels the playing field. There's things that we can do, Texas, be accountable for that can make this game tight. We just don't need Alabama to lay an egg for us to be able to compete in this football game. That's just my thoughts. Again, we'll get into the specifics as we get later on down the week. Just kind of seeing the comments, and that's why I kind of pulled myself off social media midday today. But
I'm gonna pull up a couple of comments here from our guy David Williams, because they're actually pretty good. No real UT fan wants to have a defeatist attitude in any game. However, I think the goal is to compete hard for 4 quarters. Also, UT remains healthy after the Alabama game, unlike against LSU. To me, come out healthy, play your ass off for 4 quarters against the number 1 team in the country. If you played your ass off after 4 quarters or 60 minutes, right, and you did your best, and you went out there and you played your ass off and you gave yourself a chance to win, that's good enough for me. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, as a realist fan, is it going to be a tough battle this week? Absolutely. When I get my prediction, do I have Alabama, probably beating us? Absolutely. But again, it comes down to, are your guys that are going to be playing on Saturday at 11 o'clock, putting everything they have into it, both mentally and physically?
And I guess that's my thought. And you can pull it up. But I guess my thought was, for all those folks who had 9-3, 8-4, Alabama, I would venture to say, was one of the losses that they had in their 3 losses or 4 losses going the season. So I don't know why it's a surprise that folks are picking Alabama. What I do find it surprising is, on social media, folks are talking about how bad our football team is. And I don't know how you could say that when the only evidence you've seen of them is a 52-10 win on Saturday, and it would be 52-3 without a garbage time touchdown. A lot of those statistics will look really, really good. If what he say, how many total folks he say played on Saturday? 78?
78, yeah.
78 players, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
and 28 out of the brand new 35. So we got a lot of things accomplished. Got snapped. We did exactly what we wanted to do on Saturday. We got a lot of folks snaps. We got a lot of folks experience. We scored in the 50s, and we could have held them to the single digits. Yeah, just the defeat is kind of David's hitting the nail on the head in my mind. Is put the damn ball down. What you got?
That's it. That's it. That's all you can do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We was. I'm not going to sit here and talk. Well, we're gonna get our ass beat by 50 points on Saturday. All right, we're not going to do these shows because we know what's going to happen on Saturday. My mind can't go that way. You know what I'm saying? When they put that ball out at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, I'm all in that Texas is going to win that football game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm all in that Texas is going to win this football game. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to the game because I know we're going to get, skull drug across DKR for 60 minutes. I just can't do it.
I knew you pulled that one up for David. I totally agree with his game plan. I think I discussed it yesterday in the show with Lando and Nino. You talk about quick passes?
Quick passes, yeah. Again, they're talking about the offensive line. They got two. We're bringing some stuff up we're going to talk about in the pregame. But Alabama's offensive line's got two brand new tackles, right? Two brand new tackles. One's a transfer from Vanderbilt that's starting at left tackle. So, there was I forgot what they called it, the Predator, or they called it something. I was telling Jeremy while I was in one of the lines here at Disney World. I was talking about the Utah State game, and they stood every one of their linemen up. I think there was 6 or 7 linemen that were standing up at the line of scrimmage, and that was one of the times they actually got to Bryce Young. And because again, when you got 6 or 7 guys that are lined up at the line of scrimmage, you don't know who's going to be dropping back in coverage. You don't know who the guy's going to be rushing. And to me, that's what you do against Alabama's line if it is one of their weaker points of their team. You know what I'm saying? To me, you got to play. To me, it's all about aggressive intelligence, dude. Play really, really smart football, but be as aggressive as you possibly can. Because sitting back and letting Bryce Young just dink and dunk you down the field is definitely not a way to win this game. You got to be aggressive. We got to be bringing in the house. Got to make him uncomfortable. Got to stay in rush lanes because you get him outside those rush lanes. He still makes things happen with his feet. I think he ran for 100 yards, which he's never done before. I think he ran for exactly 0 yards last year. He ran for 100 yards on Saturday. But to me, stay in your rush lanes, get interior pressure, make him uncomfortable. Put your hands on these wide receivers, man, and reroute them and make him have to make a decision.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. Again, just do what the play allows you to do. And that hybrid scheme that you're talking about with 6 guys in or around the line of scrimmage with nobody's hand on the ground. Again, pre-snap, quarterback looks out there, doesn't know how many guys are coming. Just changing things up. And Gary, there was a comment on here about Gary Patterson's influence. I think so. If nothing more than putting guys in positions to insinuate or to manifest their skill set, right? So they identified certain player has a certain skill set, putting them in certain schemes, certain packages that allow them to manifest their talents. Again, it was ULM. It was one game, 78 guys played. Your litmus test is Saturday. It is crazy that you go from a team like there is no middle ground, right? So I would consider most of the teams in the Big 12 conference to probably fall somewhere between ULM and Alabama, right? So you got here and you got here, and UTEP would probably be mid-tier Big 12. But it's like you're going from ULM, who was picked to be finished 7th in their division of the Sun Belt, all the way up to number 1. So scene's going to change from last Saturday to this Saturday, but you can control the controllables, and that's your ability to win your rep, and that's what Saturday's going to do for the University of Texas.
All right, so getting back to Steve Sarkisian's comments, it was 76 guys. We had a chance to play 76 guys on Saturday night, which is tremendous. The fact that so many guys had an opportunity to play mentions 28 of the new 35 scholarship players were able to play on Saturday night. Let's talk about schemes. He's talking about, game plan. He says I promise you, they've had our game plan done for 3 months. We've had their game plan done for 3 months because nobody was actually going to come out here and change what they've been really good at or change their game plan on defense and offense. You'll probably throw a couple of, do some cat and mouse things, probably with rushing the quarterback on the defense side of the ball. You may, see some guys up on the line of scrimmage, the cornerbacks on the line of scrimmage, trying to put their hands on the cornerbacks and stuff, but the actual schemes aren't going to change altogether. He actually called Pete Golding Petey at one point. I think him and Pete Golding probably have a really good relationship. But he knows what Pete Golding's defense does, and Pete Golding knows exactly what Steve Sarkisian's offense does because they played against each other for a couple of the years at University of Alabama. So nothing really changes.
The offense is going to do the things that Quinn Ewers is really, really good at. They're going to run the run plays that Bijan Robinson likes. I actually watched the pivot. I got manifested, or not manifest is not the right word. I'm off, right? So I'm on vacation. Everybody's off today, Labor Day. But I went back and watched C.J. Stroud and Bijan Robinson with the pivot, and then I just started going down. And I watched them with Errol Spence, just watched them with Dana White, and then I stumbled upon Marshawn Lynch. And he was talking about when he got traded from Buffalo to Seattle, he wanted to run 17 power, which is famously the one where he shook the world. I think they called it the Beast Quake or whatever over New Orleans in the playoffs. And he was waiting all year to run 17 power. So long story short, you're going to put the things in your scheme that help Quinn Ewers make plays. You're going to put the run sequences in your game plan that are going to allow Bijan, Keelan, and Roshan. And you're not going to let Alabama dictate your game plan until you have to adjust. And that's plan, adjust, and finish. Keep with those three things. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but that needs to be their focus. He said this, I think he said it on Saturday night. His plan is so much for his script because, of course, we were like, after the script, it seems the wheels fall off of the offense. And he said, well, with the second pass interception, so much for the script. But he knows that he's going to put in his offense and against Alabama the first couple of drives, the things that our players do well, and then he'll have to adjust off Alabama's adjustments.
You want to look at the comments, or am I still shaky, or am I doing pretty good?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. All right. So let's get to Nicholas Saban, Coach Nicholas Saban here. Obviously, his press conference was today too, so we wanted to pull some comments up from him. He said they got a lot of good players and a lot of good schemes. It's going to be a tough game for us. He also said that guy talking about Quinn Ewers is a really, really good player. I kind of talked about it before. I think he was enamored by Quinn Ewers' 55-yard toss that obviously wasn't completion off platform from outside the pocket. I think on 1 foot on Saturday night. So he knows what he's getting in Quinn Ewers, but so does Will Anderson. Will Anderson says he's excited to go up against a quarterback that's played in 2 games. I did see that comment. He's excited. He said he'll definitely know him by the end of the game. So Kelvin Banks has definitely got some work to do there. Talking about he actually was talking about offense, man. He said I think that's what every offense coach wants, talking about a running back. So the question that was asked of Nick Saban was about running backs that are receiving threats. And it kind of went down to Jahmyr Gibbs, and then Jahmyr Gibbs to some other guys that were in the SEC. And then he got to Bijan Robinson. He said Bijan Robinson is probably the best back, all-purpose back in the country because he can do everything you want him to do. But it was funny because you could tell he kind of – I'm not going to say that Coach Saban tipped his hand because they have what they have. But in a running back conversation, he brought up the fact that tight ends were doing the same thing. He said tight ends and running backs are mismatched players. So when you have a guy that's outstanding, that's an advantage for you. Talking about that you can actually put them against linebackers or safety that are unable to cover them. So I just thought he was talking about running backs, and he went over to tight ends because I think tight ends, Ja'Tavion Sanders, is going to play a big role in this football game on Saturday night or Saturday morning. And the reason is because if you go back and look at Alabama, they've had a hard time actually covering the middle of the field and taking care of very athletic tight ends in his time there.
And I think that's why it was so important for those guys to get in sync. Talking about Quinn and Ja'Tavion against University of Louisiana Monroe, I think that's what your game plan will be, is outside zone to Bijan Robinson, inside zone to Bijan Robinson, probably some little orbit motion, a lot of moving the tight end around. Ja'Tavion will be in motion quite a bit. That's why I thought the loss of Jaleel Billingsley was kind of big. Would have rather had him on the football field than serving the suspension. but I do see him playing a key role, and he's absolutely right. Because you want to see Jordan Whittington and Xavier Worthy be productive. You want to see Quinn Ewers hit Xavier Worthy down the field, but those are pretty low percentage throws most times. I think Quinn is probably he's the best guy on your roster to be able to make those throws. Number one, we've decided that. But you just got to be able to move the sticks, right? You got to take your shots when you have them. But I think the game plan is going to come down to a lot of 5 and a lot of 0 and Jordan Whittington over the middle. And I think Nick Saban understands that and trying to get those big plays when you can. Trick plays, special teams plays. That's why the kicking game is going to be important. We brought that up post game. We brought that up again. We talked about that again yesterday. Special teams, control the controllables, do your job, and see where that gets you.
Yeah, I was trying to pull up a comment here because it kind of goes with what the Marvin Overshone talks about. So Scott Sheraton, this I can tell you, no Texas players thinking, oh my God, Alabama is in town. These guys are licking their chops at every chance to play the game they love. And DeMarvin Overshone said it himself today. He said he agrees that a win over number 1 Alabama would probably shock the world, but that in quotes, it would not shock anyone inside the locker room. These guys are going to come to play on Saturday. Obviously, they know they got a task in hand, but to think these players aren't going to be prepared to play the number 1 team coming into your house on Saturday morning, I absolutely agree with you, Scott Sheraton. These guys are licking their chops at a chance to play the game they love and against the number 1 team in Alabama this Saturday.
And let me pull up this one from David, because lucky for you, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. Lucky for you that this is 2 of the better football players on your team. When you talk about Jatavian Sanders, Jordan Whittington, he brings up the backs, right? With Roshan, Bijan. Like, that's probably the best, deepest position on our football team is our skill positions on offense. And I think you're going to utilize this game plan that he's talking about, utilize those guys down the seam in the middle of the field between the safeties and the linebackers, again, moving them around, put them in motion, sneaking them across the field, running your pick plays, any way and every way to get him open. But the great thing about Jatavian Sanders is he was always open. Again, I understand it's against ULM. It's probably a larger there's a significant gap in the talent level of players that are playing for Alabama than ULM, but consistently getting open. And then Quinn Ewers, like I said, has to have the patience if he has the time, and it's going to come down to offensive line. Again, they graded much better with pass blocking than they did on run blocking. Let's hope that trend continues. This weekend, you'd like to see that run blocking grade come up a little bit and that performance go up a little bit. But if that can manifest and he can work through his progressions and find the open guys, I think that's the game plan for success. I don't think you're going to be able to beat them over the top too many times. And incompletions down the field just kind of, can stall a drive. It doesn't put you behind the chains, but it doesn't give you any forward progress. So just take your plays as they come to you. I think Steve Sarkisian is probably, like you said, got a game plan he's been working on for 3 months that he's going to roll out. and then once Petey, as he called him, and Nicholas Lou Saban, if we use his full government name, make their adjustments, then Steve Sarkisian and Kyle Flood and GP and all those, and Pete Kwiatkowski make their adjustments as well.
Yeah, so talking about so Jeff Moe brings up some questions about the receivers not being open on Saturday. He said, I thought our receivers would get more open more than they were. Maybe ULM did better than we thought on coverage, or am I wrong? I think it just has to be really do with the vanilla offense, to be honest with you. I think it's just, giving Quinn Ewers an opportunity to make those simple progressions like reads and then be able to kind of go through those. I don't think it has anything to do with their coverage because I think the middle of the field, the intermediate game was going to be open. Regardless, I think what happens is you see all those overthrows on those long balls, and you feel like he what would he 22, 18 for 26, I think is what he was on Saturday. If I'm not
18
mistaken.
for 24. 18 for 24.
18 for 24. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for 225 yards. I just think that the intermediate to short game was there, and he had an opportunity to progress down to those guys and get the ball to them. So I think it really came down to that. And the four, I think there was four he said, grab a sandwich at the airport tomorrow on me. Hey, I'm going to tell my wife over here that's laying on the bed right here. Scott Sheraton just sent us a super chat for $10 for us to enjoy a sandwich tomorrow at the airport. She's not paying
Good luck
attention.
getting two. I was going to say good luck getting two with $10, but especially at the airport. But
yeah, we appreciate it, Scott. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm ready to get back home, man, to be honest with you. 5 days in Orlando, Florida, and Disney World is enough for me. We're actually supposed to bring our daughter, and then our daughter, she's 18. She was supposed to come with us, but she didn't wind up making the trip. So it was just me and the wife that made the trip to Disney World. And we're old, so I got a college football game going on until like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then we're getting up, we're going to eat breakfast, and we're hot by like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like, all right, it's time to go. It's time to go home. It's got to go back to the hotel. It's been hot. We appreciate that, Scott, man. Thank you so much.
No, Scott's always awesome. Really appreciate tuning in and his contribution to Texas Football Talk.
What else we got here? Yeah, I agree with this. I've gone back and watched that. When you're in long lines for like an hour and a half here, like I've been doing at Disney World, I think I've watched the game a couple of times. I've watched every press conference. I actually went and watched because I was talking to Jeremy earlier. And I'll get to this comment in a minute. I was talking to Jeremy earlier because I kind of went through a bunch of Alabama YouTube channels today, and I couldn't find any like non-biased ones to kind of reach out to see if they wanted to join us on the show. So I kind of gave that up. It was like every one of them's like, oh, it's going to be 55-0. It's like, okay, there's no reason for us to bring these guys on the show because they've already got their bias in the fact that they think that Alabama is going to kick our ass on Saturday. But I want to get back to this because I think you're right. I like Ogofu, but he gives up the edge consistently. The play that Overshown made to tackle the quarterback from behind should have been made by Ogofu. But what he did is he went down, and obviously that quarterback had a free run to the end zone. And DeMarvin Overshown and his speed, man, off the edge is something that's going to be pretty awesome to look at this year. And it was a hell of a play made by Overshown. But, Ogofu, pushed himself in and got himself out of the play. Versus making that play, which should have been his. I promise you, they pinpointed those things for OV this week. We'll see what happens because if he's not fixing them, they'll find somebody to replace him really fast there.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. Like his responsibility has to be get up the field, set the edge, and then hitting the quarterback is secondary, right? Don't dive down. Let your defensive tackles do that job. That's their responsibility. Set the edge, and if you find the quarterback on your way to doing that, then by all means make that play. Again, it's a tough job. We talked about that in our edge profile. Like they got a very tough job. Like I say, setting the edge, and then you want to get perimeter pressure at the same time. But like you said, he's got to be productive, or he's going to be, they're going to find somebody to replace him.
Kind of answer this. You're talking about the, Mock Schnell here, funny about the 3-month comment because he couldn't have known who the Bama wide receivers are going to be. Bill O'Brien wasn't changing his offense based on who his wide receivers are going to be in September. His offense is his offense. These offensive guys don't change up their offensive schemes based on the players they bring in. They bring players in that fit their scheme. So Bill O'Brien's probably been running the same offense he's running in Alabama that he did as the head coach of the Houston Texans and probably at Penn State. I think he was at Penn State at one point. And a list goes on and on and on. His offense hasn't changed. So it didn't matter who the wide receivers were going to be in that offense. That scheme that Bill O'Brien was going to run was going to be the same one that Pete Kwiatkowski was going to have to go against regardless of who these wide receivers are, which they're 6 brand new ones.
The scheme and the game plan are different, right? So every coach has a scheme, right? They run a specific – they have an offense that's based upon like – Steve Sarkisian's an RPO game, right? Run pass option is generally what he does. But if he was to lose, like he lost Isaiah Nair, if you lose players, then you're going to go to a specific personnel package and a specific game plan off of your scheme. The scheme doesn't change. You may run a different personnel package depending upon the depth that you have at a certain position or players that you have available. But like you said, Clint, he's been running the same offense since he was – had the job. And like you said, great coaches bring players in that fit their scheme. They don't just bring willy-nilly and then, change the scheme every year. Because, again, That's the problem Texas had on defense. When you change coordinators every year and you do bring in a new scheme, I'm moving this player from end to nose tackle back out to end. He can never get comfortable with what his responsibilities are because it's too willy nilly. It's chaotic and it's not consistent. So yeah, I totally agree.
What we got here? I did like what I seen here. Talking about, can we see more tap on the edge? He looks like a motor full speed. That guy, he moved, man. We came in, he took his opportunity to actually come in and make plays, especially in, I think he came in probably towards the fourth quarter. But he had an opportunity to come in and make plays, and he came in and make plays. And he looks like he fits the part of that defensive end that you're looking for, that big defensive end that you're looking for. So definitely excited about Jamon Tapp. You actually got me wanting to go back and look at the hell. I may jump in a bed here in a minute and actually go back and watch the game again. Probably watch the third and fourth quarter again. I think I've seen enough of the first and second quarter. Probably watch third and fourth quarter just to watch the rest of these guys.
You talking about motor, and I shouted Keandre Coburn out yesterday. I think I shouted him out post game show. His motor was revved again. He was all over the football field for a guy who's a nose tackle. 94 jumped. Dre Bledsoe, when he was out there, limited number of snaps, but twitchy. You could see the speed. You could see the tenacity in which he plays. 45, Vernon Broughton the same way. There were guys out there that now Vernon played significantly more snaps than the guys you're talking about, Tapp, and the guy I'm talking about, Bledsoe. But I think there's guys out there that we saw their potential within just a couple of snaps that they played, and their ability to be playmakers in the future for sure.
Yeah, so I actually thought about this one too. I know we've gotten away from the comments. There's not very many more of them anyway. Talking about Steve Sexton, he said he would like to see the Wildcat Roshan and have a sneak pass with it. To me, it's not so much the Wildcat. I would actually set him offset of Quinn Ewers and do a direct snap with Quinn Ewers in the game to Roshan Johnson and give him an RPO look. If he thinks the run's there, let him run it. But if he thinks he can take an opportunity to pass it, I thought about this, and he obviously being a previous quarterback, give him an option of throwing it as well. But give him really an RPO.
I think all personal packages and formations and Wildcats are all on the table. I think that's definitely a possibility you might see it in this game. But I was interested, and I think I talked to you, Clint, about it. I don't know if we brought on the show, but when they got in two backs, it was generally Keelan Robinson and Keelan Robinson and Bijan Robinson together in the backfield versus who we thought it might be, which would Roshan and Bijan being back there at the same time. So, and again, they like to motion Keelan out of the backfield and hit him on swing passes. You're probably going to see him doing some orbit motion stuff, again, to utilize his speed on linebackers if you can get that matchup.
Yeah, I was actually – it's funny because you brought that up because I was actually going to ask you about that. Your thoughts on that two-back with Keelan Robinson and Bijan. Because they give you a run threat, but they also give you a speed threat out of the backfield, that can catch the ball.
If you go empty, if you go into conventional, if you're in 22, right, two tight ends, and again, that's where the loss of Billingsley kind of hurts you a little bit. Is if when you were in traditional 22 personnel, if you had Keelan Robinson and Bijan Robinson, and you were able to slide them out in empty. And then you had, let's say, a Jaleel Billingsley, Jatavian Sanders, and then Xavier Worthy to fill out your five across your empty formation. Pretty doggone potent. Now, not saying that you can't use a guy like Jordan Whittington the same way you would use a Jaleel Billingsley. You have him in the slot along with Sanders, Keelan Robinson, Bijan Robinson, and Worthy. But I think that's a good package too. And I would like to see him go two back. I'd like to see him motion out the empty and see what that gives them as far as matchups. I think it'll be successful, but I think Wildcat, as many different looks as you could give Alabama, is good. Just be prepared to have second. When you have 2nd and 10 or second and 8, 2nd and 10, just. And Johnny's kind of saying it here, take what the play gives you. Never find yourself in 2nd and 15, 3rd and 15, because you find yourself there, you're not going to get the first down. you're going to have to punt the football in most cases and hand the ball over to Bryce Young.
Scott Sheridan gave us $10 for the super chat for me to pick up a sandwich tomorrow at the airport when I return back to Texas. He said he had a jet. However, is this Quinn team? There's no doubt that's Quinn team, man. This is, Keelan Robinson said it the best the other day. He came in and went over this football team. He's their guy. He's young. He's hella talented. You can see what he can do with his arm. Hell, he had a fake pump. Like he faked the pump, man, and then threw it out to Ja'Tavion Sanders. There wasn't nobody to throw it to that he pump faked it to, So that's that piece he's going to give you is that, that really it's that thought of, let me do a pump fake to keep this guy closer to me, or give the thought of I'm going to pass it to somebody else and then I'm just going to chuck it out to Ja'Tavion Sanders. Probably one of his best plays outside of that throw that he made off platform to Ja'Tavion Sanders between two guys. Those two that really stood out to me in this game, but he is absolutely your quarterback at the University of Texas for the future, for now and the future, no doubt.
224 yards in 2.5 quarters. Again, if he plays 4 quarters in that ball game, there's no need to rub it in against ULM, but I think he easily gets to 300. He gets to probably 300 if he hits one of those 3 deep balls. They weren't 75 yards, but I think it helps with his confidence on the second and third one. Game can't be here soon enough, man.
It can't, absolutely. It's gonna be a fast week though, man. I don't go back to work till Wednesday. Not much on the schedule for Thursday and Friday. So, but yeah, it can't get here fast enough, man. So Johnny Moon, who's going to be the spy this week on Young because he ran more than we've ever seen in their first game of the season. I think he's a pass first guy, run second. I don't think that he's going to. I don't think they're going to call a lot of run plays for him. That's a pass first, run second offense. And I think he's only going to run when it's necessary for the run, and that's when you push him out of the pocket. And again, that's why it's important you keep those rush lanes because if you get interior pressure, he honestly can move outside the pocket. He's small, and he can duck that thing while he's on the move, either to the right or to the left. So I think it's important you keep your rush lanes and keep him in the pocket versus them actually calling run plays for Bryce Young. They know he's their Heisman Trophy winner. They know they have Jalen Milroe behind him. They need to protect Bryce Young. So to think that they're going to call run plays for him, I don't think that's the thing for him on Saturday night.
No, but what you got to do is when you're 1 and you're 3, get upfield, and hopefully they get upfield and around him, is don't overrun him and let him have the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw a couple of times against ULM. Again, we overrushed the play, didn't squat, and the quarterback was able to run the ball pretty much down the seam for a first down. So just like you said, be disciplined in your run lanes. Don't over pursue, and let the game come to you.
Let me see here. Jeff Moe, I'm ready to be done with this game so we can concentrate on what's more important, the Big 12 game. Yeah, I'm excited about it. So Dave Williams, spot for Young is a good question. The quarterback run for ULM was a weakness for UT. Jalen Ford has to remain in the middle of the field, and safeties have to come up quicker against Alabama's quarterback run. Again, I just don't think that, unlike ULM's quarterback that has a run, he's probably a dual threat quarterback, and I'm not saying Bryce Young's not a dual threat quarterback, but he's going out there to make pass first, right? He's going to go through his progressions. He's going to try to get the ball down the field versus him taking off with his legs. Now, can he run? Absolutely. Ran for 100 yards on Utah State this week. I think most of his runs came because he got outside the pocket and they gave him the opportunity to run versus an actual having to put a spy on a running quarterback to keep him from running the ball. I think it's two totally different things. But yes, Jalen Ford has to remain in the middle of the field and have his eyes on, Bryce Young, just in case he does take off outside the pocket, especially up the middle.
So you watched Utah State and Alabama, and I'm only asking you this. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm only asking you this because I got an idea of how I would play Alabama as a defense, I think. Run game for Alabama, traditionally pretty strong. We talked about this offensive line having 2 new starters. And again, they played Utah State. Your thoughts on us and our ability to stop the run?
I think we have an opportunity to stop the run, but the problem is you try to stop the run, then you have to you're putting the ball in the hands of, or you're putting it back in the secondary with him dink and dunking you down the field. I think that's the problem. If you line up and try to stop the run totally against, I can tell you that Nick Saban wasn't happy with their run game this week at all. And they obviously Chase McClellan, Jahmyr Gibbs, the list goes on and on with these guys. But I think if you try to stop the run, specifically stop the run first, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage with Bryce Young and his wide receivers against your secondary. That's just because he's that good, he's that accurate, he knows, he's very smart, very intelligent. So he knows exactly where he wants to go with the ball. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So I guess my game plan would be then try to stop the man or stop the run with a 4-man front. I would have let's see this press man coverage that we've been talking about. Let's get in these receivers' grills at the line of scrimmage and make him get the ball out of his hands. And hopefully, if we're in their face across the board, then his completion percentage, he doesn't have the completion percentage that we think he can, and it doesn't allow him to kill us by 1,000 cuts, like you said, dink and dunk the football down the football field. So my point is, come off the off-man coverage, get in their face, try to stop the run with a 4-man front, and then utilize one of your linebackers to do just that. Be a spy on him just in case it does. If you're playing press man coverage and nobody's open and he's forced to run the football, at least you got somebody to account for him. I guess that's the way. I don't know if Gary Patterson or Pete Witkowski's thinking that. And again, you watch Utah State against Alabama, and again, one game isn't going to tell me exactly what they're great at against one opponent, but I'm thinking that would be the way that I would potentially go at them initially.
Yeah, I just think you try to do it with your 4-man front. I don't think you try to bring an extra man into the box unless you're trying to, get pressure on the quarterback. I think that you get your 4-down linemen to try to stop the run, and you play your traditional defense like you would. I don't think you need to put an extra guy in the box. David Williams always got smart things. He's always got smart things to say here. I agree that Alabama's focus will not be the quarterback run, but UT's strength is their defensive line, which I think they can neutralize Alabama's running backs. The quarterback run was a UT weakness. I think Alabama will try to exploit that. But again, I'm going to come back to you, David Williams, and the reason I'm going to say that is because, again, Bryce Young, second game of the season, Heisman Trophy winner, is trying to get Alabama back to the SEC championship. This does not take them out of the SEC championship, and probably wouldn't take them out of the national championship if they were to lose to Texas. I just don't think they're going to utilize Bryce Young as a running quarterback. I may be wrong as a running quarterback on Saturday. I can't see it. I can't see it. He's a pass guy first, run guy second. The only reason he's mobile, or only time he's mobile, is when he finds himself outside of the pocket and he can't find somebody down the field to throw it. Then he takes off, and he's got great legs. So
I'm not going to argue with anything you're saying. And again, you're playing them the second game of the season. These coaches know what they have as far as personnel and understand what gives them the best chance to win going in the football game on both sides. And I think they're going to game plan accordingly. And if the opposing coaches identify or have a adjustment for that and they can't execute, then they're going to have to adjust on the fly. Just my thoughts, whiteboard in hand, some of the things I would do, again, 22 personnel, and then break out of that into some kind of empty. And then on the defensive side, I think I'm going to try to stop the run with a 4-man front, dedicate my linebackers underneath and man across the board when I can to eliminate the short passing game and force them to beat me over the top, which they may be able to do. And if they do, then I'm going to have to slide one of my safeties back, and depending upon what formation they're in, of course.
Yeah, William Tappan. I'm not saying Bryce will not run. He's an athlete looking to win. Absolutely. If he gets out of the pocket, he's going to run, right? He's going to run. He's going to slide down like he does all the time, right? Doesn't want to take big hits. What I'm saying is, to me, again, and I could be totally wrong, and y'all could call me out on Saturday night for this, I just don't think they're going to call a whole bunch of run option plays for Bryce Young on Saturday night. It's not what he wants to do, right? That's pass the ball down the field. If he gets pushed outside of the pocket, he's absolutely mobile, and he will absolutely run it. But he's running to get yards and he's running to get down. But as far as them calling, quarterback draw, I just don't see them calling quarterback draw for Bryce Young on Saturday. I could be wrong. It's not to say they won't do it once, twice, but I just don't think that you're going to see it a whole bunch on Saturday. So, you got any thoughts on that, Jeremy?
No,
you let me run with that.
Yeah, but it's tendencies, right? So Nick Saban talked about Texas defense and how he felt like they improved watching the product they had on the field last year versus the product they had on Saturday. At the same time, he's watching that film and notices their improvements. He's looking for holes in this UT defense. He's looking for guys that can't do certain things, and he's going to exploit that in whichever way he can with the 11 athletes that he has on the offensive side of the football. Same thing goes for Texas. Texas is going to try to scheme up, and we're not telling these guys anything they don't know. But to call it a specific play that may or may not be run, I don't have a clue. You don't have a clue. It's down and distance dependent. Yeah, if Texas stops them on first down, it's 1st and 10, and now it's 2nd and 10, and they stop them on second down, it's now 3rd and 10. They're probably not going to run quarterback draw. But if it's 2nd and 2, and they spread you out, they might run quarterback draw. I mean, is running quarterback, like you said, is that the number one facet in their offense, or even the number 2 thing they want to do in their offense? Absolutely not. They want to get the ball to their running backs. Alabama's always been a run-dominant team. Under Bill O'Brien, they've changed that. They want to throw to set up the run. But Bryce Young, I don't think, is the first cog in that Alabama running game. I think they'd rather hand it to the tailback than, like you say, get their Heisman Trophy winner running the football on a consistent down basis.
Let's go. Let me go up here.
That is true.
Mox, go ahead. You want to pull something up?
Well, I had another one of Mox's comments, and I hope I pronounced his name right. He's been watching our show for a while. Kane, Jaywitt, Sanders, Red, and Worthy were blocking lights out downfield. I talked about that yesterday when I pulled up the PFF grades for run blocking. I was looking for a guy like Kelvin Banks, Cole Hudson. That's what I was looking for. And the 2 names that were the best blockers were Casey Kane and Jordan Whittington. So, and Lando and myself and Nino kind of talked about this yesterday, sacrificing for each other. When you don't have the ball as a skill position player, sacrificing and doing for your buddy what you'd want him to do for you, and that's putting people on their tails in the secondary when he's got the football. Very impressed with that. When they don't get the football, they turn, they get their hips and their hands on the guy that was covering them, and they drive him down to the ground. Casey Kane, I think, had a couple of pancakes, which is crazy from the wide receiver position. But, yeah, great point there.
I want to bring up this point. He said, "This is my last one about the quarterback run." It's all right, David, man. We're going to go back and forth on these things, man. I hope UT quarterbacks lock down Alabama wide receivers. I hope UT's deep tackles can plug the middle, allowing Sorrell, Gofu, Overshown, and the nickel to make some tackles close to the line of scrimmage. I think that forces the quarterback run. I agree with that. That's kind of
exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said. Is lock up man-to-man on the receivers, try to stop them with your front 4 and your defensive tackles, and let those guys do their thing in the linebacker core and at the second level. So
forces. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, if the guys are covered, then they go ahead.
No, I think anybody can be forced to do something, right? If your guys are covered, you're being pushed up the pocket's being pushed up into you, and it's causing you to go outside. His first thing is going to be take off. That's what he does. Again, that's different than called running back plays. Absolutely got to watch that. But do I think they need to spy on him? No, I think you need to create rush lanes, right, and not get up beyond him so that he runs by you. To me, it's okay, if you have pressure coming up the middle, you have a Gofu and DeMarvion Overshown that are going towards him on the outside. Don't let him, don't get past him so that he has an opportunity or a lane to run the ball.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I just think if you don't have to utilize the spy, then no. allow those guys to do what they do underneath, and that's probably going to allow you to probably get interceptions. But again, that was the preface for my point: is you lock them up and press man across the outside, and you're able to stop the run with your front four, which is a big ask. Like, this is a huge ask. But if you're able to do that, then yes, he's going to have to tuck the ball down. Like, there's no other options. Like, if it's not a designed run play, it's a designed pass play, and these guys are covered, of course, you're going to have to take the ball down.
Take off the run.
And
run.
either that or, yeah. So
yes.
To me, it's
exactly.
But if you can not have to have a guy shadow him across the football field and utilize them for other things, then absolutely. But I think it does limit his, if he understands that a guy is spying him, right, and he wants to step up in the pocket, and they use 91 like this a lot late in the game, Burke, to just shadow the quarterback, and what it allowed them to do was get people home, because he knew if he broke the pocket and take off, 91 was going to be right there. And so it's sometimes you probably utilize it, sometimes you don't. But the key is to lock those guys up on the outside. And like I say, that's a huge ask, because they got nothing but 5-star athletes. I promise you, we went through their list of folks that they don't have out there, JoJo Earl being one of them. But I guarantee you all those Alabama receivers are capable of getting open on our Texas defensive backs, unless we play fundamentally sound football and get hands on them at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I think if they use the spy, they use the spy. If they don't use the spy, they don't use the spy. Whatever the defense coordinator thinks we need to do to beat Alabama is kind of where I'm at. So, and that's why it's
situation dependent. It's you can't just say, hey, I'm going to utilize the spy, and I'm gonna run the same coverage every play. I'm going to have the same odd man or even man front every play. It's based on down and distance and personnel packages, but scheme wise, that's some of the things I would be thinking about.
We'll talk about this more on our pregame show on. We're gonna do it Wednesday or Thursday, Jeremy.
I have no idea, but I like talking X's and O's. But it makes me kind of break out my little whiteboard here, and these are great comments and questions. But it's hard to sometimes do this stuff on the fly, because you don't want folks to come back in your video and be like, "Hey, that's impossible because this, that, and the other." But at the same time, we're doing this on the fly. We're giving you our best guess. You guys are very good, knowledgeable about the football game and understand scheme and game plan and tactics and coverages and fronts. And we're just giving our best guess of what we think they may utilize based upon what we think Alabama has to offer and vice versa. But these guys have been studying. I think Steve Sarkisian said he was watching 2 different high schools from 2018 and 2019 in preparation for the defensive coordinator for University of Louisiana Monroe, the team that he played Saturday. So they're doing a whole lot more analysis than I am. I told Clint the other day I wouldn't be surprised if he told L'Oreal, I'll see you next Saturday evening because I'm sleeping here at the office. Me, Kyle, Jeff, Pete, Gary, all of us are staying here in preparation for Alabama. I know that's probably not necessarily true, but they spend a lot of time studying every opponent, not just Alabama, but every opponent. But
all right, Cody Phillips, what do you guys think the results would be? For Googling common denominator and Alabama losses. I probably don't want to know, Cody, but I'd like you to give me the answer down in the message board. I was going to probably see either running quarterbacks or the team out east, because they just recently beat them, and I don't know, or a backup quarterback maybe. I don't know what the answer to that is.
The first thing that comes to my mind is like you, mobile quarterbacks, and the second thing comes to my mind is pace of play, right? They are deep, have historically been deep at linebacker and defensive line, and not allowing them to substitute and bring fresh legs into the football game. Now, I've only heard this on telecasts and pregame and postgame and college football live. I think the thing that gives Alabama fits is a faster pace of play, like not allowing them to substitute, get to the line of scrimmage, basketball and grass, and then running quarterback would be my second.
I don't know if he's going to give the answer. He hasn't given it to us yet.
I guess we'll have to look it up ourselves.
Nash Talks Texas has joined us tonight. About the time we're about to get off here. You got to cut your early flight. tomorrow morning back to Texas. Getting beat by tight ends also. I know tight ends is a big one. Tight ends is definitely a big one. He said, I don't know what the answer is. What? I thought he was asked. I thought he had Googled this and knew what the answer was. Go ahead. Sorry, Jerry. Go ahead, grab one.
So, yeah. So, pace and tempo. I think that's something I would try to do. It just for what the reason I said was to keep their defense on the field. Don't let them substitute. Keep our guys fresh because me and Click talked about this. You know, you get down the goal line after a 90-yard drive and the defense is huffing and puffing and the offense looks fresh. And we talked about that energy to the inability to know where the offense is heading. Sometimes where the defense at, it takes extra energy. So I'm along with, you know, personnel sets like 22, empty, Wildcat. I'd also think about, you know, if Quinn's comfortable doing it. And I think he probably did a little bit of this at South Lake. I'd have to go back and watch. But I would think he's done no huddle at the line of scrimmage calls. And something I would think about doing is no huddle at the line of scrimmage and moving the football down the field.
Next one is going to be, look at this, David Williams. If Marvin Overshone plays the season healthy and with the consistent energy and effort he did against ULM, his play will be comparable to Isaiah Simmons at Clemson in 2019 season. I see it, man. He is – I will take it. He's just so damn fast, man. They were talking, what was it, in All Access, talking about him being a previous safety or previous defensive back, and he's like, no, I am a defensive back, but he's also a linebacker in a defensive end in one body. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of guys that's why they have him, you know, where they have him currently. I forgot what it was. I don't have my magazines with me, but I forgot where they had him as far as linebackers and where his draft rank is currently with linebackers, because that's exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for guys that can move all around the place, you know, and that's what Marvin Overshone's hopefully going to be able to give you for the remainder of this season. Temple in the heat of Texas. Temple in the heat of Texas should be used if they want to go that route.
It's just it's a thought. Like I said, you didn't show anything, according to Steve Sarkisian, didn't show a whole lot against ULM. Again, this game long term, as far as your ability to play on December 3rd in Dallas, doesn't affect it. But I think it like we kind of led the show with this, talking about what kind of performance leads to, you know, catapult this program into places it's been before and places we'd like to see it go. I think you're of course going to do what you can to I think you talked about this today. Fastball is your best pitch. I'm going to throw my fastball, but no need to do things or get out of character and try to put in things that these guys aren't comfortable with. So good things we're talking about, the Steve Sarkisian has to be comfortable that the players can execute them. But if they feel comfortable executing them, I say nothing's off limits for Saturday. You go after it.
Yeah.
Just like you said with go ahead.
So I'm going to leave it with this one because we're going to kind of save some of these thoughts, but I can tell you this is my number one. If I was to put this on my priority list for Saturday, this would definitely be number one. As unusual as it might sound, UT has the advantage in skill talent against Alabama. The game will be won or lost on the UT offensive line versus the Alabama defensive line. You know, you're talking about, it's not even just the two, Dallas Turner and Will Anderson. It's also a guy by the name of Chris Braswell, which they probably have the top three pass rushers in all of college football on that Alabama team that's going to come into DKR on Saturday. So to me, this is where it comes down to, man. But we'll see. Kelvin Bates has got his hands full. Christian Jones will have his hands full. And you'll probably have Jatavian Sanders on one side or left side of those guys. If it's in 22 personnel, you'll probably have Gunnar Ham and Jatavian Sanders helping out with those guys on Saturday. But this really what it comes down to is offensive line versus defensive line on Saturday. How can they hold up against, you know, it's on both sides of the ball. That's exactly where it's going to be. And then wherever happens between those offensive lines and those defensive lines is the way that the cookie's going to crumble on Saturday. You just hope your guys are up for the task and they come in there and they play really, really hard and for 4 quarters. That's what I want to see.
So I'm going to address this one, then we can roll.
Okay.
Because Glenn Keller's in that conspiracy theory, like I was when I said Saban voted Texas #1 in the coaches poll to give his team bulletin board material, because he figured that they would beat Utah State when we beat ULM, and he would have to say, "Hey, one coach out there thinks that Texas is better than you." So I think my conspiracy was that Nick Saban voted for Texas as #1 team in the country. Probably not true, but he said Big Brain Sark told Quinn to miss those deep shots and only hit JT on short routes to make Bama think they could only hit throws underneath, then hit all these long routes on Saturday. I hope so. That'd be great, but I don't think that's accurate. That's probably about as accurate as my Saban voted Texas #1 guess. But
All right, one more question here. Jeff Mo asked, inside zone or outside zone running the ball, and why? I'm going inside zone. I'm inside zone all day. I've watched a couple of clips of Alabama. I'm going inside versus outside. It's hard to get to outside on them. I think if you get some good blocks from your interior line, Bijan the way he is and get small, I think that Bijan's going to do better on the inside versus the outside zone plays against Alabama this weekend. That's what route I'd go. Everything inside against Alabama is my whole game plan.
yeah, you watched the Utah State tape. I didn't, so yeah, I'm gonna have to go with you in inside zone. I'd like to base it upon our talent, but again, our guys are so young and only have one game against ULM that I can't say, hey, this guy's a strength and this guy's, because I like the way they put veterans next to freshmen. I know that's not why they made the determination they made and lining them up like that, but I just don't think there's enough tape out there for me to definitively say this side of the line's better than that side of the line. We should run in this whole. I mean, they know because they've got all the practice reps to judge it off of, me and the coaches. But yeah, whatever one opens the biggest hole, that's what I want. Longest gains, inside or outside.
We keep getting these good comments, man. Roshan at 22, going to be chipping son of a gun on Saturday. I'm with him. Bijan, you got Bijan and Roshan Johnson in the backfield together. You're talking about a guy that can leak out of the backfield to catch passes. When those guys are trying to rush upfield and get Bijan in the backfield, you got an opportunity to just dump it over the top of the heads of one of them as he leaks out of the backfield after he's chipped or whatever. So it's Saturday can't come soon enough, man. All right, so I'm going to get off here. We're going to get off here tonight. We'll either see you Wednesday or Thursday for our pregame show. I'll probably, we'll talk about that tomorrow when I get home. And then we will be preparing, I think, Saturday for members only. We'll be doing the live stream chat where me and Jeremy will have the football game on. I'll probably have it on in in my office behind me. Those see my office. There's a table that's right behind me. I'll have the TV up on that so you can see it. You'll probably be watching it from your home anyway. But I'll have it up there, and then me and Jeremy will make ourselves available probably at the end of each series. Maybe big play happens, maybe talk through that play, and so on and so forth through the actual game itself. So look forward to that.
Yeah,
so,
awesome.
Should be some ups and downs with everybody. So be prepared. All right, hopefully more ups than downs. All right, y'all have
it's going to be fun regardless, right?
It is going to be fun, yeah. So we hope you enjoyed the show. We appreciate you listening as always. Please hit that like button before you get out of here. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. Please hit that notification bell so you know when we're coming on next. Appreciate y'all guys, and y'all have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you soon. Hook 'em.